Welcome, everybody, to Education about Asia and the use of certain articles in your curriculum. I am Diana Mackiewicz, and I am currently retired at this point. I did have the opportunity to teach all the grades, but mostly high school and some college. And what I would like to share with you is how I use certain articles from EAA. And this is a lesson that I developed many, many years ago, and I have recently expanded it because of a class that I took at the USC US China Institute. So this is called Roots of Peaceful Activism, Transcendentalism, Hinduism, Civil Rights, and the Sunflower Movement. And I think that covers a whole lot of areas in Asia and here in the United States too. So before we get into the papers and everything, I just want to kind of show you in a more streamlined and efficient manner, what are we covering and how could you actually apply this? There are some suggested courses here. You see those on the left-hand side. And this is primarily for high school or even younger college students if you wanted to go that far. The main concepts that are involved, and then the main actors. Main actors, Henry David Thoreau, Mohandas Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and college students from the Sunflower Movement in Taipei, Taiwan in 2014. Okay, so what did I do and how did I do this? I actually used these two articles, but it's the one here called The Asian Soul of Transcendentalism, which was published in 2011, written by Kent Bicknell, and Professor Todd Lewis. This article really kind of expounds for you what you will be reading, what you could be using with your own students. And I just wanted to share with you some of the key points that you'll be taking away from that article, and then I'll get to the other article. You're going to read more about Thoreau's integration of Asiatic studies, religions, and philosophies, especially among his transcendentalist circle of friends. You're also going to understand more about Thoreau's peaceful stand against slavery. That will come out in that primary document called Civil Disobedience. You will also find out more about Gandhi's integration of Thoreau's civil disobedience in his own work. Gandhi did that work when he was in Africa. Remember, he was in South Africa, the country of South Africa, for approximately 20 years. So Gandhi had, I would say, the boots on the ground. He had the actual physical experience. Gandhi will also take Thoreau's work and then he will develop what is called satyagraha. That is the moral pressure on colonial authorities. This is where we start to see more of the peaceful, nonviolent resistance coming forth. Finally, what you don't see in the article, but it is going to be brought up in lesson plans, is Martin Luther King's consolidation of Thoreau's civil disobedience and Gandhi's moral responsibility and how the nonviolent demonstrations work. What we find out about Martin Luther King, he definitely gave a lot of credit to Thoreau and Gandhi in his life's work. He will write about it, he will discuss it, and he will mention how he goes back and he reads and rereads. The interesting point about this is that Henry David Thoreau does not know how much of an effect he actually has, but Gandhi does. Gandhi sees Thoreau's work as so powerful that he takes civil disobedience and he will translate that into Hindi for his own followers. Now, that is a major step. Finally, this other article that's here is called The Facts About Asia, Taiwan and Hong Kong, and this was published in 2019. This is a really useful article in the sense that it gives you some very basic, concrete facts. It helps you understand more about why Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan are referred to as the little dragons, and they are mighty dragons. The other thing that is included in my own work that I did is a first-hand account of the takeover that was included by Dr. Ian Rowan, and this is a primary resource. When I say takeover, it was the college students that took over the legislative building there in Taipei, Taiwan in 2014. And they did it nonviolently. So, moving on, here we have what I like to say, you are what you read. And oftentimes I have to ask myself, did I read all these things? But what I want you to focus in on is the chart here. This chart is actually in the article, about the Transcendentalist, the Asian Soul of Transcendentalism. I took this chart and I actually gave it to the other people in my class that I was taking at USC, because many of them were from China and Taiwan. And I said, did you ever study any of these materials? Were any of these things brought up in your classes? Strangely, a lot of them answered and they said, yes, we actually read Walden. Many of them said they had heard of civil disobedience but had not read it. Others had mentioned all the different books that they had read on in Chinese. The Book of Changes is one of them. And they also had mentioned about their studies in Taoism. Now, all this comes forth because I want you to understand that people were not thinking that the Transcendentalists were the ones who were activating this whole powerful movement here. Because after all, Henry David Thoreau, he will write Civil Disobedience around 1838. And where is that fitting into our whole scheme of violent or nonviolent protesting? Actually, he was protesting slavery. Okay, so this particular document I would show to you because I really think that when you download the articles, especially the Asian Soul of Transcendentalism, download the total PDF, you will have access to this. If you look at it only on the website, you may not see this actual document. Excuse me, this actual table. All right. So, roots of peaceful activism in regards to Taiwan. Now, this story alone stands just by itself because what is fascinating about this particular story is that when you start to understand how the actual protest took place and how college students were behind this protest, they basically did it in a non-violent method. And one has to wonder, did they read some of Thoreau and some of Gandhi? Did they understand Martin Luther King? The answer is yes, they did. They actually did understand what was going on in those things. Now, the other part here is that there's two articles here, but they're the facts about Asia. One is from EAA. The second one is a primary source written by Dr. Rowan. Dr. Rowan was the actual person there. He was almost like an embedded researcher or journalist, and he worked, shall we say, within the confines of that particular event. And he wrote about it, and his article was published. And so there is a direct link to his article here. This is amazing because when I talked with him, I asked him, I said, do you think this was your destiny? He says, no, Diana, this was not my destiny. He says, but he says it was important to note that after I went to the Taipei, Taiwan sunflower movement, he says, I then went to Hong Kong. And that's why I included this article about Hong Kong, because he participated in the umbrella movement in Hong Kong. What were the students protesting? It's up here in red. They were protesting, first off, a buildup of nuclear power plants in Taiwan. And the second thing was they were addressing that the textbooks were going to be revised to a more China-centric point of view. And they felt that that was displacing information about actual Taiwanese. And here we have a final wrap-up about the actual protests. These are signs from there. This is an interesting one. We don't have another Taiwan to sell. Their protest was definitely fueled by this idea of being nonviolent and also at the same time reaching out. Now, what I found out while I was researching the protest itself was what happened afterwards. Many of those college students went on to get jobs within the government. Many of them also went on to get elected positions in government because they wanted to still be the voice of change. Now, if that is not Gandhiism, I don't know. Be that change that you want to see. So I would suggest that pulling all this together or taking pieces of it on your own, however this fits into your particular curriculum, it might satisfy something, an urge or an understanding about what is peaceful activism. A question I would have asked if I had my own class at this point, I would say, would this have made a difference if they were not given sunflowers, but instead were given lotuses? Lotus flowers are predominant all over East Asia. And I wondered about that. But you see, the fact is that the sunflower also is notably grown in the Ukraine. And that was one of the facets about the sunflower movement, was that the people in Taiwan were very concerned. Were they going to become like another Crimea? Remember, this is 2014. So, are you ready to use peer-reviewed, current, and credentialed resources from education about Asia from the EAA? I know they added a lot to my own curriculum. And one final slide, just to kind of tidy this up. Who am I? If you would like to look at this, what have I been doing? I've been an educator for over 36 plus years. I definitely have taught overseas. I also have worked overseas. I worked in Guangzhou, China in the summer of 2010. I finally retired from Norwich University. I was a research manager for Peace and War Center, and I worked a lot with students and cadets, basically getting them ready to go overseas into East Asia. My affiliation with the NCTA began back in 2004, and I have not stopped. I still work a lot with the NCTA. I still like doing a lot of these programs. The pictures I posted of myself, just to kind of give you an idea about what am I interested in and who's my number one assistant. It's my cat. That's Corgi. And then this picture down here on the bottom left, that was when I was working in Guangzhou as an ESL instructor. And then this one over here on the right, that was when I did walking the Tokaido at Norcross Sanctuary. That summer, I walked a good 318 miles. It was great. Loved it. But if you have any personal comments or questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm retired, but that doesn't mean I'm not doing anything. It just means that I'm more available now than I ever was. And I appreciate you for taking the time to watch all of this. Thank you very much.